View from the Gutters presents The Long Run, Episode 9. Welcome to The Long Run. The Long Run is a show that gives us a chance to talk about books that are too long to discuss on a regular episode. On this episode, we discuss Nausicaä of the Valley of the Wind. You guys ready to start?
Ready?
Yeah.
Do you know what episode of The Long Run this is?
9.
9. Episode 9.
Because we've done 2 complete circuits.
Of The Long Run, yeah.
This is my 3rd pick.
Sweet. Wait, really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
You picked this?
Matt,
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's
something else.
Dude, this is like my favorite comic.
who's next? by
Top
the
3.
way?
Joe.
Oh, Joe? Nice. Oh. It's okay. I'm not worried at all. Anyway, I'm Andrew Shard.
Vengeance. I am Joe Preddy.
I'm Tobias Panchin.
I'm Adam Panchin.
I'm Jasmine Zamora.
Oh, no.
Welcome.
Newbie.
We have my worst friend on the show.
Your
You're
best
talking
worst
about
friend?
me?
Yeah.
You have worse friends than others?
Yeah.
I thought they were all just,
No.
bottom of the barrel.
Dude, Jasmine is the bottom of the barrel.
I had lunch with Chard and Jasmine once, and she's pretty awful.
Yeah.
I'm pretty awesome.
And this is why we're not friends.
I'm going to take your word for that because I can't imagine anybody having a worse friend than Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there are those people out there.
I don't know. I mean, you guys are pretty down there, too. That's why I sit around and talk with you guys for hours at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Indeed.
why I'm here.
Yeah. Anyway.
You all repulse and disgust me. I just want to say that right now.
I just don't have anything better to do.
Now, I guess quick announcement before we get started. One of the reasons I asked Jasmine to be on the show with us is we've gotten a lot of, I don't know, not a lot of requests, but we've gotten people asking us, why don't you guys do more manga?
Well,
like,
I think 1 is a lot for us.
yeah, we've gotten more than one.
We've gotten people.
That is a lot.
Meaning person. No.
We've gotten people either asking us to do manga, to do specific manga, or to do ideas associated with manga. Like, Brandon Hill emailed me and asked me about, like, what I thought about over-sexualization in Japanese comics, and was like, is this a thing you guys would want to talk about in the future?
Oh, God.
And I was like, I would, but I need a different... That's not something we would discuss on the regular show, and even a back matter doesn't really feel like the place to discuss
I mean,
that.
it's tricky because it's a body of work rather than
Right.
an individual work.
And I
It's
would
not
like to
talking
do,
about tarot.
like, significant research and, like...
It's not only is it a medium with a larger genre diversity than American comics,
It's a
you might
there's
have picked up from
cultural
my previous
differences.
appearances. Yeah, I'm a big context guy.
Right.
I watch a fair bit of anime and manga. I have for like over 15 years now, and I still learn new cultural context things that I didn't know that give a different slant on these things.
Yeah.
So it would be...
It's a big topic. And
it's a big topic, and it's, jumping in like that, we can give how are we taking it
Right.
as Americans, but
Right.
we're not the intended audience.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just interesting what we pick up and how we react to things and characters differently.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something I'd like to discuss like at some point on some other format. But the reason that I asked Jasmine to be on the show is because Jasmine wants to do a show and wants to talk about manga because she's a giant manga nerd.
She's actually quite small.
Yeah.
Everyone,
smallest
everyone
member
here is smaller than
and
you,
the
Joe.
youngest member of the show tonight.
that's
Yeah, come on, please.
That's not
Fun
just
size.
everybody in this
Yeah.
room. That's most people. I'm a giant of a man.
But yeah, so Jasmine and I are going to do a new YouTube show about manga coming early next year. We're going to start. And what are we doing first? You
What,
picked.
anime?
Well, we're talking about manga creator first.
Oh, yeah, Rumiko Takahashi for sure.
Yeah. So
It's a good pick.
we're going to do
Yeah.
that.
One of the giants of the industry.
The highest grossing manga artist ever, I think.
Probably.
Thus making her
And a
probably-
woman
and
at
a woman.
that.
She-
Pretty much the J.K. Rowling of Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely. That's a good. That's a
Takahashi's
good
had stuff
comparison.
running for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Meisani Koku.
Yeah.
And just about... And everything she's done has had anime adaptations.
So she did,
Ranma.
I knew something!
Inuyasha.
That mermaid one that I cannot remember the name of right now. It's so good.
Yuretsu Yatsura. Stuff that was some of the first stuff brought over. So for a certain generation of anime fans, I mean, my God, the Ranma shipping wars when Ranma was almost all you had to watch, and there wasn't even all of it out, so people were just making shit up.
Yeah.
When Adam talked about the Ranma shipping wars, he visually paled and started shaking a little bit.
No, I was reading the fan fiction mailing list back in 99, 2000. That was... it makes the shipping wars of today look like brush fires.
Yeah. But the cool thing about the show is I don't really know that much about manga because I didn't really read it as a kid. So
That's all I did.
That's all you read.
That's all I read.
I'm going to be the novice on that show, and Jasmine's going to teach me all about anime and manga. So I'm excited.
Sounds super fun.
It's going to be on YouTube, so look forward to that. On YouTube.
Yeah.
But now we have our own comic tonight.
Yeah.
Speaking of manga,
But we're doing some manga.
we are.
We are.
Are we doing
Very
manga?
non-typical manga.
Manga?
Very, very non-typical
Can
manga.
that be the rest of the episode?
Because
Manga.
because most of them are quickly done weekly series, and this is very much not.
Yeah. So, as you already know, Nausciaä and the Valley of the Wind.
Yes. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Of the Valley of the Wind.
Also known as Warriors of the Wind, if you were around in 1984.
Please no.
Watched the most horribly translated anime ever.
Butchered.
Wait.
Ruined.
Bad enough that Miyazaki refused to let any other official American releases be done until they sweet-talked him into letting them do Spirited Away? No.
Mononoke.
Mononoke Hime. Yeah, that's right.
Which was translated by, I think, Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, that's what got him on board.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, Nausicaa, which was my pick
Yeah.
Yes.
for the long
Tell
run.
us about it
And-
and why you picked it.
Oh my God. So this is my favorite non-American comic, period. And up there is my second or third favorite comic of any kind, period. I freaking love this comic. It is so good. I mean, if you imagine everything that's good about Miyazaki, and I think it's widely agreed upon, more or less, that Miyazaki is an incredible director. And this is him basically doing what he does in his movies, but on so much of a broader and deeper level because it's so much longer. And compared to what you get in the anime, I mean, the manga is 3 or 4 times longer.
Oh, much more than that. I mean, the movie's it's like volume 1 and half of volume 2.
Yeah.
And volume 7 alone is almost as long as those two.
Yeah, it just goes on and on and on and gets bigger and better and bigger.
It reminds me of
better.
Akira in that regard. Is if you've seen the movie, you haven't seen all of the
Yeah,
story.
a lot of these movies and animes, they're just advertising. They are not meant to be full stand on their own adaptations. I mean, even, people say, oh, the Harry Potter movies, it's just the highlights. You have to read the books. These things are that times 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that really impressed me rereading it most recently is how well it expands upon itself over time. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger because you start off with this very small scale, you've got the valley and the valley people, and there's the crashed ship, and the Torumekians show up, and they're like, oh, we're going to take this thing, and we don't want them to take it. And you get into the whole war between the Torumekians and the Doroks, and then that evolves into this greater conflict where you've got the Sea of Corruption, and it's being spread, and they're doing these experiments, and that whole thing goes on for a while, and then you get the God Warriors showing up, and the Dorok Emperor, and what the fuck is going on with the crypt in, I think, what is it, Shua?
Yeah, the capital of...
the Dorok Empire.
Yeah.
And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the tension gets ramped up and up and up. And you have all this stuff with the refugees who are escaping the miasma, and Nausicaa is flying around and around and around, and oh, it's the white bird.
Right.
It's just such an incredible escalation.
It gets more metaphysical too, because there's more and more journeys into like the spirit realm, or into her mind, or into, we don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
especially when she like lands at that city with the
Oh, and the
elk
little
stuff.
garden with the like protector guy,
Yeah.
and they're trying to get her to stay.
I love that, because we've seen instances of her like having these visions from the spirit world kind of several times before that, but that's the first one that's like is a trick on her.
Yeah,
You know, where she's like, "Oh, I didn't realize I had like traveled to a different plane of existence," basically. So, there's a lot in here that didn't make it into the movie for sure.
I would say most of what's in here didn't make it into the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've read this book many times, and I just love it. But
Yeah.
I want to hear what your guys' thoughts were on it, because I don't think, with the exception of Adam, any of you have read this before.
No, I've seen the movie. I've seen it several times, but
So,
I'd never read it.
what did you think about it, Chard?
Initial thoughts, it looks old, but it is in a way like my favorite war comic I've ever read. Like, it's hard for me to think of a Western comic that has the scale of like modern combat that this book has. Like with airships and the charge of all of the like bird cavalry.
Yeah, horse
And-
claws.
Yeah, the horse claws just getting like gunned down by like massive, the big armaments of just huge anti-aircraft gun and like anti-personnel cannons. And then they're like, oh shit, we took all of our guys out of the personnel cannons to like man the close-up guns, but like now we need to, and they just like are having actual tactical problems. Like there's actual war tactics going on.
Logistics.
Yeah, and I'm reading it. It's something that's not in the movie as much. Like there are skirmishes, there is combat, but it doesn't feel like there's war on this scale, because you never see like the full might of those two empires like meeting. And Nausicaa leading the charge into that city is like one of the most brutal scenes I think I've ever seen. And so for that aspect, like that was the thing I wasn't expecting, was it to be such a brutal war comic. Because I think it does a lot of things that I love about war comics, where it doesn't glorify combat, but it still makes it intense. It also makes it horrifying at the same time, and it shows all of the ramifications of combat, where you have all these refugees and you have these two children that were destroyed in this when they camped out inside the temple. The two children who are the only ones left of that city that was destroyed, they like go inside the temple to hide from the miasma, but they left the fire burning because they were like afraid to stay in the dark, and they suffocate to death. And those two kids are the only ones left. And Nausicaa's hell bent on like getting them somewhere safe, and then they give them to another refugee woman who ends up in another place, and the priests are trying to get them out. And so like on that scale, I don't know that I've ever seen another comic do that kind of stuff.
Well, it's important to note that Miyazaki was born like right around 1940.
January 41, I checked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was growing, like he was 4 years old
Yeah.
when the bombs were dropped on Japan. Like he grew up in that post-war period, so he got a huge dose.
Most of the first-generation manga writers and artists that I've ever read grew up in that time period, and the second generation grew up like right after that.
Yeah, it really shows.
So like Tezuka was alive during that time period, and you see that kind of those ideas in their work as well. So
Yeah, like-
it's
and
not something I'm surprised to see.
Yeah, you get a huge dose of that kind of like anti-war, like war is just destructive
Well, the
attitude.
the atomic bomb imagery in the book too.
Oh yeah, with the God Warriors.
Yeah, is very well. The fire that rained down for 7 days, and the ash that rains from the sky, and
Poisonous light.
and when the temple blows up at the end, like it's a very
They
much a
say
mushroom
straight
cloud.
up mushroom cloud at some
Yeah.
point. And you know, when I was reading this again the last week with a more critical eye, really seeing Miyazaki's themes from his various movies really hammered home here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting flight for being freedom, but we're also getting this incredible tension between man as a sinful creature that is destructive and corrupts and destroys the world, but at the same time fighting against, as the comic puts it, nihilism and despair.
Right.
And trying to find a solution, and that's pretty much Nausicaa's journey, is trying to find that solution where she's, the holy maiden, the savior, the messiah, but at the same time, she's a warrior who gets bloody, and her clothes are stained in blood. I mean, literally, blue blood. And, often human blood as well.
Yeah.
And she lies and is sometimes a hypocrite, and she's trying to find her way through. And the comic does its best to try and find a satisfactory resolution to that inherent conflict between feeling like feeling like humanity is at odds with the natural world, and feeling like humanity should have a right to exist and should be able to find some way to live in balance with nature.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like Miyazaki quite finds a completely satisfactory solution. It's all a bit sort of cobbled together and unresolved at the end, but he's still trying his best to work through it here.
Yeah, it's kind of like the best you can do in the face of, like, how does man either exist at the same time as nature and not show dominion over nature. Like,
I think that it actually kind of works on the level of like a Zen koan. Like, there are some questions that don't have answers, or don't have an easy answer, or the only answer that it has is a personal answer that you have to find for yourself. And I think that this story kind of works on a level of going, this is a problem. This is a problem that's always going to exist. It's inherent in the nature of man.
Absolutely.
And you can't rely on the past to solve it for you. Like, the people of the past who are contained within the crypt, like, they are very much presented as not having the right answers, and it being a question that every generation has to answer for itself. Like, people always have to look for a way forward.
Yeah, they have the answer that works best for their people, but, like, it means the extinction of Nausicaa's whole way of life.
Right.
And so it's not an acceptable answer for the people of the story. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Joe, you haven't read this before.
No, I hadn't.
You've seen the movie, though, right?
No, I haven't. It's pretty incredible to me how much is not in the movie. I mean, most of
this was written after the movie,
right? This, I kind of wasn't sure going into this what to expect. I feel like I am, I would consider myself a pretty big Miyazaki fan, but I've never read his manga before, and I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed it. I didn't get a chance to read Volume 7, which really bums me out, because this week has just been like a giant shit show for me. But like, normally I have more than enough time to finish a book in a week, and I want to do that, so it's fresh in my mind. But I found myself continually, I kind of was worried that this would be something that I would have to kind of slog through, and that there'd be more kind of like, I find my experience with anime is, no matter how good it is, there's kind of valleys where you kind of have to, like, there's like navel gazing, you know?
Exposition.
Yeah, that's kind of, but a very specific kind of exposition that's very much like, we must remove ourselves and look, and like, that is done so well in this. I really, really enjoyed this book. I think this actually, as much as it kind of pains me to say this because of who fucking recommended it, this, I have to put this up with, in my life, there have been a few books that I've read that have changed the way I approached comic books. And I think this might have to be one of them. I don't think I've ever read a character like Nausicaä before. I don't think I ever have, because she feels human. She feels frail and at the same time superhuman.
Right.
The fact that she goes through this entire book and kind of does what she has to, but this commitment to life, this commitment to saving life wherever she can, is like fucking astounding. You don't see that anywhere.
I talked to my dad about this book at one point a while ago, and so I forget exactly how he put it, but he made a comment about how the most inhuman thing about Nausicaä is her infinite capacity for love.
Absolutely.
Like, she loves everyone.
She really does, and not in this kind of like, I think people tried. This is a character that's attempted, maybe not a lot, but plenty of fucking times, and it's always wrong. It always feels false. It always feels self-serving and masturbatory. And Nausicaä doesn't. She genuinely feels that. She genuinely cares.
It's really well done. I mean, as I've commented to my brother, there is this, of cultural things I don't entirely understand. There is this recurring theme of holy maidens in Japanese works. And, I know they've got the Shinto shrine priestesses tradition, and it probably plays into this, but, I've seen endless variations of Joan of Arc or Joan of Arc-like characters.
And this
explicitly Joan of Arc, or other ones just holy warrior maidens like her. And Nausicaä is one, but it's really well done. And both that and, as I said, she is straight up a Messiah character, like straight up.
And hasn't this been compared to like Christianity?
Yeah,
in some context.
Well, the culture that seems to have come before has like an old god, and then her culture has an old god too. Yeah. And there's a lot of parallels, in my opinion, of like the duality of Christianity and like monotheistic faiths, where it's like the one god and the antithesis of the one god are almost one and the same.
Well, they've also got a few references to karma and chains of karma and reincarnation.
Yeah, but she keeps riding on the like old crazy guy, like he's like a big thing, and she's like riding on him or like near him, and he's like, "No, I am your one god," and she's like, "No, you're not. You're evil. Like, what am I sensing from you?" And I think it's like a lot of the duality of like, if the one god is everything, like if they are omniscient, omnipotent, everything, then they are not only good, but they're also evil. And I think that's kind of Shinto in nature. I may be wrong about that, but like
the Shinto's anime.
I think that's more of a Taoist thing.
That could be
duality.
It is very the
yin and yang.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Taoism is very much about
balance, right?
It's about acceptance. It's about things are the way they are. A Taoist would tell you, if you went up to a Taoist and said, "I'm very unhappy," he would tell you that it was probably because you were trying to make something into what it's not. Things are what they are, and that's be the uncarved block. Be simple.
This time through, I did notice a lot of parallels between Nausicaä and Joan of Arc. Like, I think that there is a huge level of similarity there and an intentional appeal to a lot of that same kind of imagery of this, this holy girl touched by God from like this tiny little piece of nowhere farming village who like rises up to be this, big deal warrior who's like guiding the people.
War leader and also mother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of not only does the God Warrior call her mother, but like the
worm handlers.
The worm handlers, they look up to her like a mother, like a leader. And then she's a mother to those two kids. She's a mother to the fox thing. She's like a mother to
Tito,
the injured Ohm. There's like a lot of mother-child parallels with Nausicaä.
And then again, there's how she keeps reverting in the spirit worldness. She keeps reverting to childness, innocence.
Yeah,
and I think that is appeal to her uncorrupted nature.
And her mother, and the relationship she had with her mother continues to come up over and over again. Yeah. And then there's the little psychic boy too.
Yeah,
there's
Chikuku.
There's another mother-son relationship there too.
So Jasmine, what did you think about the book? Because I know you have notes.
Well, let me just put this out there. I'm not a big Miyazaki fan, but I have read this before as a child. I can't remember how old I was, but I was really young, and they had this at the library, and I read it, and I was very confused. I didn't read it all. I read the first few volumes, and
I don't think it was published in its entirety until much later.
Right.
Because when I was a kid, my dad had 4 volumes where it had been mirrored, so it read left to right.
Right.
And then there were some like individual issues, but I think it stopped being published before they finished the whole thing.
No, they put out the whole thing as individual issues that not even on a monthly, but just spread out whenever he could get them done.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised you didn't have the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, it was whatever the library had, so I had like maybe read 2 to 3 volumes, and I've always been a fan of more modern, like more slice of life anime, manga, and so this was too different for me as a child, but reading it now, I didn't realize how much of an impact it made and how much I can't explain. It's like such a complicated series, you know, and I mean, I even if I don't like Miyazaki, I can still respect this work because it's one of his darker works, and I really like that. Like, I really like that it even made Miyazaki like think twice about life, you know? And so I can't say I don't like it, but I didn't read all of it because...
Well, and the influence it had on later manga creators, like the people that you were reading...
Oh, yeah.
...was massive.
Yeah.
Like Hideki Anno of Evangelion, he got to start working on the Nausicaä movie, and Kushinada... Is it Kushinada? The Torumekian... Kushana was a big influence on Asuka in Evangelion with the hairstyle and the crazy mother hugging the doll.
Well, Otomo picked up a lot of stuff from this too that you would see in Akira and Memories and a lot of that stuff. So it's definitely been a massive influence on both manga creators and Western creators as well. So. Kind of like reading Watchmen when you're like, if you read modern stuff first, you'd be like, I don't understand why this is groundbreaking.
And you know, this is very, as Jasmine says, this is very different from most of the anime and manga offerings out there, most of which are aimed at, many of them are aimed at different younger age groups, different age groups. A lot of them are, you know, slice of life or just, you know, romance or whatever. And this one is slower, darker, more, you know, and I say this as somebody who reads a fair bit of manga, it is aiming to be a more complex and mature thing. It isn't just trying to be, let's have fun.
Yeah,
and there is stuff that's a lot of fun that's just trying to be, let's have fun.
But it's a massive fantasy epic on the scale that like stuff would later try to emulate. You know, you see stuff like Naruto and Bleach, these like, you know, hundreds of series long things that don't delve into the depth that this delved into.
Well,
but like,
they're not even trying.
But they're for younger kids, like you're saying. But they're trying to be that large fantasy.
But the
epic.
thing is, this is also not only for adults. Like, younger kids can read it, but they probably just won't hold their attention like most Miyazaki movies would.
Right.
It's also a hugely complex work just in the level of the art.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really love the artwork throughout this book.
Oh, incredibly
but it's,
good.
You know, thick. Tons of panels on every page, like incredibly detailed line work.
I did not like
the one thing that I did that does bother me about this comic is that there are a lot of times where I don't know what order to read the panels in.
Oh, really?
And I'll read it and be like, nope, I did it wrong. Let me go back. And there's normally you start at the top right and you go to the left and then you go down to the next row. And there are a lot of instances in this where the panel below takes priority over the panel to the left.
Smaller than the one on the right.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't.
It took me a long time to get a feel for when I was supposed to go down first.
Right. It's always, if the panel to the right is like the size of the two previous combined panels, then you read the two on the left first and then the right one.
Yeah, I think
it's like
that's something I
on the
noticed.
Right first.
I read it left to right.
Yeah, it's something I noticed, but didn't have a problem with just because I guess I've read enough manga. Did you find that too, Jasmine?
What was it?
Did you find any problem with the panel order, or have you read enough manga that it's like, oh, I know how this works?
Oh, yeah, I read enough manga to know what it was. But I want to say that this was published by Viz, right?
Yeah,
Viz
I
Media.
think so.
Have they made like a left to right? Or
there was a left to right
Mirrored.
edition that was published originally. And I'm not sure if that was by Viz or somebody else.
Back when everybody was doing that, like with Ranma.
Yeah.
I want to say like
2000
2003 or 2001, there were 7 softcover volumes that were released.
Right.
And then just recently, first printing 2004.
Yeah.
And then just recently, like last year, they put out a new 2-volume hardcover edition, which is amazing.
And those
is
both
also
read
right to left.
Those both read right to left. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I don't remember having a problem reading it, and even now I don't have a problem reading it, but I do understand that there's a lot going on each page.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to, and there's a lot of panels, like you said, so it's easy to get lost. And
well, there's conventions they don't use in Western comics as far as like how to read panel layouts that they use a lot in manga.
I noticed it's usually when it's slanted.
Yeah.
When the panel transition is slanted, you go down and then to the next column. And it's, I know Japanese writing, sometimes it's done left to right horizontally, and sometimes it's in vertical lines. I mean, right to left horizontally, and sometimes it's in vertical lines, right to left.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just flipping through it and counting the panels, and it's like, this page has 9 panels. This page has 10 panels.
Yeah.
This page has 10 panels.
Oh no, it's dense.
Yeah,
It's
Very.
dense.
Sometimes you'll see a 9 panel up comics page in Western comics. Almost never will you see more than 9.
These days, yeah.
Yeah, it's rare, but it's the thing about this though, like, is as dense as it was, I read it so fast
Oh yeah.
because it's as detailed
yeah.
as it is. Like, I don't feel lost in the details.
it's it's like action packed.
Yeah.
So you're like flipping through it.
Well, I was hooked on the
problem.
action panel, so I was just like blowing through any combat scenes.
Yeah.
Like anytime they're in the air fighting battleships and stuff, I was just like, what?
Yeah, well, something we talk about a lot is how hard it is to depict action on a comics page.
Yeah.
And Miyazaki does it beautifully.
It just
like there, you
Well,
really got a sense of how things are moving.
I feel like one of the strengths of manga, at least the manga I've read, and talking to other people that have read much more manga than I have, is the way action works.
Yeah.
And that's something that's heavily influenced modern Western comics writers. I mean, Scott McCloud talks about it too. It's
Sometimes
like
for better
this
and
whole-
sometimes for worse. I remember the
like-
incredibly decompressed superhero comics of the late 90s. Oh, God, so bad.
But it's about what's in the frame. It's about what's in focus in the frame. It's about what's in the background, and it's about how those panels move together.
Yeah.
Like how much time passes between each panel. Because in Western comics, often like you'll have like a large increment of time pass between one action panel and the next action panel. And in manga, I feel like they put more intermediary panels in, which makes it feel faster in some ways.
Yeah.
So
And slicker,
Yeah.
I think, is what it is. And I mean, I think it just adds to the general. There is this work is very genuine to me. And at no point do I feel that he's throwing something in there because he had to make it work. Like, it all feels like it came from his head.
Yeah,
Well,
this
it was-
feels like an intensely personal
Yeah.
work for
Absolutely.
him, and one of those things where you can tell like he's been thinking about these ideas since he was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this is his personal fantasy world that he's putting on the page, and he's
Yeah.
got
Oh,
it
absolutely.
all thought out well in advance.
Well,
and
and
it's
he-
a crazy world.
It's
too.
an example. We talk a lot about, or we have in the past, about being too close to your work. But like, you can tell there's a lot of love for these characters, and they're so lovingly rendered. And actually, like, I do agree with Char that it does feel old, but it feels old in like a comforting way. It's like,
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I like old stuff.
yeah,
Like, in the same way that I love 70s comics.
yeah,
but
and
like,
I think some people might interpret that as a bad thing, and it's like, no, it's not.
hard for
It's like-
me. It's hard for me to justify, like, oh, it's old. I mean, it's good. Like, I like parts of it, but, like, I like it because, like Joe says, like, it feels sort of comfortable in a way.
Yeah.
But it's still old. Like, I
No,
still have
absolutely.
to have that
Well, it's
mindset
like
while I'm reading
when
it.
no, you have to put yourself there.
And compared to modern manga, like it looks nothing like modern
Yeah.
manga. In
No,
the same way that
absolutely
70s comics look nothing like modern Western
If
comics.
you look at some of the monthly manga instead of the weekly ones tend to be pretty low on detail because to get those suckers out on a weekly basis, they have to have teams of assistants and they still have to keep it simple.
But it's not-
If you look at some of the monthly ones, they still don't approach this. Not even close.
It's not just the detail though. It's like it's the way
it's the line
faces
work, the
are
character
drawn.
design.
It's because it's really of that. To me, it like screams of the 70s and like late 70s, early 80s. I mean, I
That's
know
when
it
he
was
started
82.
He started it because he couldn't get back,
Yeah.
before he did Nausicaä the movie, he wasn't Miyazaki. He wasn't, he'd
this
done,
was his first film.
Well, that
and
he's-
he couldn't get
yeah.
backing for it until there was a manga because
Right.
that's how it was done. So he started the manga so that he could get the backing for the movie, at least this is the story as I remember being told it. These things often have a touch of urban legend to them, so I won't vouch for its absolute veracity, but that he started it to get the movie done and then focused on the movie, and after the movie just sort of, noodled away at it as he had the time and ability. Yeah, and that's why it took so long to finish, because he was Miyazaki by that point. He was doing it as he felt able to and wanted to, and wasn't on a weekly schedule with an editor cracking a whip.
But you can see the influence of the late 70s, early 80s in his stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely of the time.
It's very potato-y. Like, everyone is, like, very, like
all the technology looks lumpy.
Yeah, his
like
other
the Zentradi
too.
ships in Robotech or Macross or whatever you want to call it.
The faces are really round and lumpy, and like that's a very like stylistic Studio Ghibli thing that we're like very fond of now. But he's cleaned it up even now. But you look at stuff that I think that he was looking at and that was an influence on him at the time, like what is that? Rankin and Bass.
Oh, yeah.
Their animation was done by a branch-off studio of Toei Animation, a Japanese stuff, and so their animation, like Lord of the Rings, or not Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit, specifically The Hobbit, is very potato-y and, like, rounded, and, like, all the fantasy stuff looks, like, very much like that.
Yeah.
And in 77, Ralph Bakshi put out the film Wizards, which reminds me a shit ton of how this looks. Like, everything's weirdly elongated, and, like, all the armor plates are, like, really rounded and intricate. And so, like, it reeks of that time period for me, which I wasn't alive during, so, like, I don't get flashbacks to 70s moments, but, like, I can still place it in that decade.
That's weird to me, because Wizards always felt very specifically American to me in the style of animation.
But, I mean, it's Ralph Bakshi, but it was definitely influenced by Japanese animation, because most animation in the 70s and 80s was influenced in some way by the animators who were influenced by Disney in the 50s and 60s.
I suppose that's true.
Then went on to make, like, killer Japanese animation that then kind of, like, found its way back. And I have a hard time believing that Ralph Bakshi, living in New York, like, never saw a Japanese animated anything,
Never
Very
once.
much.
I have a hard time believing that. There's not a lot of documentation, because I went and looked. I was like, there's not a lot of documentation on Ralph Bakshi's anime influence, but Wizards reminds me of ElfQuest, and ElfQuest reminds me so much of manga and anime.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
Because there's like all those like fairy people in Wizards that look a lot like the elves.
I mean,
in
ElfQuest was
to me.
100% absolutely influenced by manga.
Yeah,
I've heard Wendy Penny explicitly say, yes, this is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the influences are going back and forth during that period.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was so cool about animation at that time period was, like, there's just this free exchange of...
And, part of it's, the animation scut work was being farmed out to the Japanese studios, and then they turn around and do their own stuff influenced by what they'd been doing.
Right.
See Big O being done by the people who had been working to do Batman the Animated Series animation for years.
Yeah.
And then said, we're going to do our own Batman with giant robots and robot girls and cool cars and jazz.
Wow, I never put that together.
Really? Oh, yeah. It's totally Batman, robot
Lord,
Batman.
in the name of good.
Yeah.
But there's, like...
Name of God. You saw the Bowdlerized version.
I did see the Bowdlerized version because I watched Toonami.
Yeah.
And while I enjoyed Big O, I did not enjoy it enough to actually go out and find it on... this is before I appreciated subs, good subtitling, because I was lazy.
Yeah.
As I got older,
everybody goes through that progression.
Yeah, and as I got older, I realized...
Yeah, the original was, cast in the name of God, ye not guilty.
Which makes much more sense. But
That's a quote from the Bible.
Yeah.
Sort of.
More or less.
One of my greatest triumphs as a parent is that my Audrey, who's 13... we were watching something the other day.
Gurren Lagann, you said?
We were watching Gurren Lagann, and we were watching it dubbed, and she turns to me and she goes, "This doesn't sound right." And I'm like, "I know. Put on the subtitles." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." And I was like, "Yes."
Well, if she's into subs, I can start handing you more stuff for her.
But like Toei is the animation studio that would go on to do Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball. So like some of the biggest influences.
Sailor Balls and Dragon Moon.
Yeah.
This is 100% tangent, but I just found out today that there was a pilot made for an American Sailor Moon half animated, half live action with some CG elements.
Half
When?
animated.
No, there were two
half
different
real.
ones.
Sounds awful.
There was, I think the live action one, was that a parody or not?
I just saw a video of the opening,
Yeah.
and it was 100% banana pants insane.
There were a few different ones. I've seen this. I've seen the animation cells for the proposed American cartoon version, and then there was the live action one that got like the one opening done.
Is
Yeah,
it bad
awful.
that I'm totally picturing Jem in the holograms?
That's
Yeah.
what I
That's
was
good.
thinking.
As
That's
Sailor
exactly what I was
Moon and
thinking.
the Sailor-
Well, no, see, that would be incredible.
That
so
would
this
be
was not
truly
that.
outrageous, is what that shit would be.
It would be truly, truly, truly outrageous.
Truly, truly, truly outrageous.
I don't know. I think that there's a lot of cool like integration between like our influences as when anime started to come over to the U.S. and also just like how all this stuff mixed together.
and it's
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
And
absolutely.
that cross pollination has not stopped.
No, definitely
No,
not.
no.
and you know, we are coming at it from a different generation. I mean, Jasmine, when did you start getting into all this?
Into anime and manga? Oh,
I mean, where and when?
it actually begun with Ranma. I got one of the first editions of the Viz publications, and it was like beautiful. Viz published, like, the covers were beautiful, and it was female Ranma on the cover in like the fishnet stockings, Playboy bunny outfit with a cocktail. And this was on the cover, and I would take it to school with me, and I was in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
And I got in trouble for it, but I loved it. Like,
Well, and
See,
also you were in elementary school in like the 2000s.
And like yesterday.
early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Jasmine's quite a bit younger than I am, and
Yeah, I'm 22.
I'm younger than everyone else in the
See,
room.
I was starting to get those same Ranma Viz volumes. I was introduced to them when I was going into college in 97.
yeah,
Right.
97, 98. But no, Nausicaä, the movie, was one of the first anime I saw when my dad's odd friend, my dad brought me with him over to his odd friend, the Movie Geek's house, and he put on unsubbed, undubbed pirate video of Nausicaä, and this is like 84, 85. No, before that, because it was before Warriors of the Wind. So it must have been 82, 83.
Yeah.
And then we went to see Warriors of the Wind, which was the god-awful butchered edition. If you want to laugh, look up the movie poster. It's like total rip-off Star Wars poster and makes no sense whatsoever.
Oh my god!
Isn't
I
there a
want
flying
one.
horse?
Yeah.
Yes, there's a flying horse and someone has a lightsaber. It's crazy.
I want that. I'm gonna get it
And
for the studio.
then later on, finally saw a fan subversion, and this is when it was bootleg 5th generation VHS tapes being passed
yeah.
around, and it had things like, you know, the scene in the basement where Nausicaä explains to Yuppa, hey, I've been growing the forest plants on pure earth and water, and they're not poisonous. That got cut out of Warriors of the Wind.
The scene that explains, like,
The entire
Everything.
movie.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's aside from, you know, reshuffling the order of some other scenes.
Oh man.
But, you know, the fan subversion, it finally made sense. So this was sort of where I was entering in. And although I did not get fully in until, like I said, I got to college and got exposed to stuff more than just what the weird movie obsessive guys' tastes, which ran to the sex and violence. And it's like, oh, there's
sounds like
Slayers and Ranma and Nadesco and all this cool stuff.
The
So-
biggest problem with starting an anime show with Jasmine is every book she's ever suggested that we cover has been hentai so far.
Okay, well, Blue Girl is necessary because
Sure.
it's such a classic.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I'm not sure Sex Friend is, though.
Yeah,
it kind of is.
It was.
Kind of is.
Back when there was not much of a selection, my anime club in college, we had once a semester the hentai night where we'd put on something like Overfiend or La Blue Girl just to laugh and
That's
expand on
Jasmine's.
things.
That and H games. That's what you always try
Well,
to get me
Sex
to
Friend
watch.
is good because of the H game. Anyways, so going back to
It's
Nausicaä.
embarrassing
Yes.
to work with her.
You had something to say.
So I read Nausicaä not long after I started reading like Ranma and all that.
Yeah.
And I realized
a
even now
shock.
I didn't like the artwork in the manga. And even now, I'm not a big fan of it, but anime will always be where Miyazaki is best because he always has he just compiles it into a masterpiece. Like the Nausicaa movie is great, and the soundtrack is amazing, and you don't have that in the manga. Like you don't have that emotional. Like it spans over volumes.
His pacing is really good in his films too, because he knows how long, as a director, to just like leave things in frame and let the weight of a scene really carry you. It was something that like I've watched, I think, at least half, if not more than half, of the Lupin, the third movies.
Oh god!
And Castle Cagliostro will always be such a masterpiece.
Oh, but he's really good with motion and light and movement, and that he loves flight and battles in the clouds and stuff. And you see a little bit of that early on in Nausicaä, and then he sort of like puts it aside because it isn't working as well in the static medium, and it isn't as important. And he goes off to explore all the, the themes and issues and stuff that he really wants to deal with. So it's very interesting seeing him go off in this, dealing with this other stuff.
It's that he's genuine. Like
there's something else that I really appreciate about Miyazaki, which is that he doesn't believe in villains.
Yeah.
He just does not believe that they exist. And if you look at every single antagonist that exists throughout this series, I think all of them get redeemed at one point or another, at least to the extent of being like, this person wasn't completely bad. They weren't always bad. Like they had noble motives at one time, and they can be redeemed at least somewhat. The Emperor's brother who goes off into the land beyond the forest, at least in psychic form.
Spirit form.
In spirit form.
His soul finds
Kushana, who is the first antagonist, becomes one of Nausicaa's closest friends.
And an amazing character.
Oh my god,
Kushana,
maybe my favorite character in this book.
But I think the thing that always strikes me about Miyazaki, and it hit me in this, and it's what I love about his movies, is there is, as a director, you can't bullshit your audience. Your audience is going to know when they're being bullshitted. This is why, and I think I'm thinking about this today is because I've been thinking about The Graduate all day today because Mike Nichols died today. I think either last night or today. And you guys know you guys never seen The Graduate, right?
I love The Graduate. I've seen The
Dustin
Graduate.
Hoffman, right? And fucking Anne Bancroft, right? Which is great because there's this great story.
Hello, darkness, my old
Yes,
friend.
exactly right. There's this scene. Anne Bancroft is Dustin Hoffman's girlfriend's mother.
Yeah.
And she seduces him. And it's where the line of, "Are you trying to seduce me?" comes from. Mel Brooks apparently is married to Anne Bancroft. And like Dustin Hoffman was asking him for a job or something at that point, and like the whole scene with them is really great because he had to improvise something because he started.
Is that where he's like plastics? You need to get into.
No, that guy also has a funny line. But the thing is at the end of this movie, he's sitting there, and it's a long shot. He's sitting there on a bus, right? This whole sequence of events is happening. This whole sequence of events has happened, and he's finally, like, long story short, he's gotten his girlfriend back who's going to marry somebody else. He's just rescued her from him, right?
That seems in Wayne's World, right?
Yes, it is. It's actually Wayne's World 2 lampoons that whole thing. They're sitting on the bus and they're just looking at each other, and it's this long shot that you would expect to last maybe 5 or 10 seconds. It lasts almost close to a minute.
Long.
And Mike Nichols didn't give them any direction. He just told them to sit there and look at each other and shot them.
Yeah.
And because of that, this moment between these two people looking at each other going, well, what the fuck do we do now?
Yeah.
Is very real.
Yeah.
It's very, very real.
It's one of the creepiest movie endings of all time.
And good directors, they can do this. They know their audience can smell bullshit. And to be able to do that in an animated movie, I think, where you're essentially creating the characters, that's fantastic. That's fantastic to be able to create characters on a level where you feel their warmth and you feel their fucking lifelikeness. That's impressive.
I was always 100% sold on the cat bus's motivation. I never felt that character was not true.
He is
the fact that he was a cat who was also a
bus.
Well,
so genuine, that character. Also, go fuck yourself.
I think it's about pacing, though, right?
No, absolutely.
directing in the animes, in any sort of animated medium.
Toby's very proud of that
Very
joke.
pleased with himself. No, you should have seen his fucking face light up when he was like, "Oh, I'm going to say something about the cat bus."
I want to talk about Cat Bus right now.
No. the voice direction is still directing.
Yeah.
It's it's different, and that's ultimately why in almost all cases I will prefer the sub to the dub, as you're finding out, because some of the dub people are perfectly good voice actors. It's just without the direction.
Yeah, very rarely is the director in the same room with them, which in the Japanese, like the actual Japanese actors, like often get at least input, if not from the director, but from a assistant director or someone who's like very close. And when you get the the dub is usually like distanced by a couple years and some time, and like, do they have good direction in the scene? Because there's some Miyazaki movies with the dub where it's not bad.
No, but
it just doesn't carry the emotional weight because no one was there to be like, can we do another take of that where you're more sad?
The Disney redub of Nausicaä, when they got the rights to release these movies, is pretty okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say they put more work into the dubs than
they got professional.
Average,
they got Patrick Stewart
Naruto.
To be Master Yupa, which I think is awesome. A great casting decision.
Uma Thurman
as Kushana.
We'll never not hear her voice as
well, and fucking
the beef's pretty good in it too.
Is he Kurotoa?
Yeah.
And Ponyo, Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a great cast for that fucking
Neeson's?
movie. But I still spend
Liam Neeson's is my shit.
Most dubs do not have a tenth of the budget of what
especially like back in the early days, like the first dubs of Tenchi Muyo.
Oh God,
fucking excruciating.
Even Dragon Ball too.
I mean, for me, Tenchi. Digression here. For me, fucking Tenchi, the voices in the original. In the original Japanese are so much fucking better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Incredibly better.
Tenchi's grandpa's voice in the Japanese, oh my God, he sounds just like he's so cool.
Samurai Champloo.
Yep.
Like, if you like Spike from Cowboy Bebop, it's hard because the same actor plays Mugen, but the Japanese voice actor for Mugen is unfucking real.
Yeah.
Like, that guy is amazing. And the other thing about a lot of Japanese voice actors, too, is sometimes they'll record all their voice takes in the same room, like with what American animation is starting to do with Bob's Burgers. But I was watching a behind the scenes of Satoshi Kon's Tokyo Godfathers, and the three main characters recorded all of the dialogue in the same room around three mics, and so that's how you get the interplay of those characters really well. And in dubbing, or in the dub, they don't
not
often
just in
do
the
that.
dub. I've seen at least in the 90s Disney movies, I saw some of the behind the scenes, and everybody was doing their lines separately.
Yeah,
that's been the style in Western animation for a long time, and it's not just Bob's Burgers. There are a number of shows where they are doing it like everybody gets together, but it's more expensive to do it that way because you got to get everybody there at the same time.
That's the way to do it right there. I think Futurama did it that way.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
It worked a lot better. I think a lot of the Spielberg animation did it that way too, which is why you got those really rich performances from people like Maurice LaMarche and Yakko. God, what the
Ron
fuck
Paulson?
Ron Paulson, and
It just feels more authentic.
It does.
Because they're actually having a conversation.
They're getting to
Absolutely.
act.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They're not
absolutely.
just reading dialogue off a script.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that's yet another reason why I prefer the Japanese, but
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
everybody goes through phases. And everybody has their own deal.
So there were a couple of points that I wanted to touch on just about things that happened in the series that I absolutely loved. One is when Master Yupa is like going around and he goes to that town that is inside of a spaceship.
Yeah.
That like never launched.
The mining town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just talking about how like, nobody alive today even remembers what this thing was originally for because humanity went off into space at one time. And
Yeah.
they don't do that anymore. And I love that scene so much. First of all, because you get the sense like there's all these people fucking around on Earth, which is all ruined and shit, but maybe humanity's out in space as well. And like, they don't even know it.
Right.
And like I always love that like extreme future, like post-apocalyptic thing where it's not just like civilization is ruined, but like civilization has been ruined for a long time and rebuilt itself.
Yeah.
And there may be even greater civilizations out there that they don't even know about.
Yeah, it's like the future of regression back to primitive technology kind of deal.
Yeah.
And I always
but
dug that
not
too.
just regression, but rebuilding.
Yeah.
Where it's like they've rediscovered things.
Yeah. I love that scene because it like the imagery it places you in that world was something that was the scene in which I was like, I want a world like this in a video game.
Yeah.
Like I want a world like this to explore.
Oh, yeah,
If you
absolutely.
want a world like this to explore, they're doing a Numenera video game in the style of Planescape Torment. So
I don't know what any of that stuff is.
Numenera is Monty Cook's new RPG, tabletop RPG setting, which is very much in that, there have been a successions of rises and falls and, a lot of remnants of past ages. And you've never played Planescape Torment?
Nope.
Baldur's Gate video games?
Okay.
Planescape Torment was what Obsidian later, it was BlackRock and then Obsidian was before them. So it's, very much in the Baldur's Gate, only more so.
Okay.
So that got kickstarted and that's working on it. So you should look into that if that's your thing when it comes out.
And
Definitely check it out.
Riding off of that, I really love the whole thing where like they have all these engines that they're digging up because they don't know how to make them, but they work basically forever. It's like the entire ship could be destroyed. As long as we save the engine, we can rebuild everything
I
else.
like the salvaging the crashed engines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you shoot down an enemy, let's stop and see if we can steal their engines.
Yeah, and I like the kid who's fixing the engine. He's like, I can't really do a lot with the engine without all these parts, but I can fix your distributor. Like, they know kind of how it works. I liked that.
I love that.
My favorite thing about this, hands down, is its world building.
Yeah.
This is textbook world building. You don't have to have a huge, you get this little epilogue in the front that says, hey, there were people here once. They fucked up. Everything died. Now there's people here again.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is what's happening.
All the stuff with like the children of the forest and the worm handlings and the whatever.
The tidal wave.
The tidal wave that happened 300 years ago and all of that stuff. Like, that's just great setting elements.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and the thing I like the most about it is that it's giving us enough of what we need to continue the story without digressing every 5 seconds to give us a history lesson, which I think is a trap a lot of people fall into, where there's like, I'm going to build this world.
The exposition trap.
Yeah, to tell you about the world rather than show you the world.
And exactly, right? This is our fucking, we say this so goddamn much on this show, it's almost our motto. Show me, don't tell me.
Well, it's a problem I have with a lot of world building in other genres. Like, movies do this poorly a lot, where they'll like tell you all about the world.
They'll either break out into a lot of forced exposition, or they will deliberately not tell you things that all the characters know about, but they don't tell the audience in order to build up a fake suspense.
And that's and
they do it in video games the worst,
trickery and bullshit. And actually I've been noticing a lot lately for some reason. Like, I've been watching a few Let's Plays and stuff like that. And I think maybe it's because
I complain about video games all the time.
Well, no, another thing that pains me about you, which is you being right about that, Five Nights at Freddy's, right, where you're just kind of thrown into the situation, and like each night you're there, it's being set up, but you're playing while it's set up. You don't have to watch a fucking cutscene.
Yeah,
and the whole arc of the story is kind of left for you to figure out.
Right,
and then I was watching Markiplier play Dishonored, and I'm just like, when does the game start?
Yeah.
It's like you've just given me an objective and shown me exactly where it is. How is that letting
That's
me
how
explore?
I felt about Uncharted, but that is neither here nor there.
Yeah, no. But and that's the thing. It's like, I think part of good world building is letting you fill in the blanks for yourself, because that's
find
going to be exactly. And that's the thing. Like, that's what's going to be a thing.
Let me discover
that
it
allows
as
you
a
to
character
connect.
would discover it.
Yeah, and it allows you to connect with that world.
Because Nausicaa's never been to any of these places.
Yeah,
and she's your vision into all of these places. Like, it's a beautiful narrative device because you feel like you're exploring the world with her.
Well, and with all the characters
and with
that are there.
Yupa knows things about the world, so when he goes places, he has insight, like about the spaceship place, and he's like, "Oh, those are the worm whatever guys."
Worm
but I mean, even beyond that, like almost on a meta contextual level, like what Toby was saying about the spaceship, and maybe there's people in space. I got the opposite of that. I got that maybe this was a culture that was ready. It was realizing that it had fucked the planet up, and it was like, our future lies in the stars, and didn't quite get it off.
Yeah, that's something you got to read volume 7 to get into, about how desperate they were and how many things they were trying.
Well, and that's the thing, but like, regardless of the intent, right? Those little things, when you fill in the blank, that's successful world building.
Yeah.
That allows you to connect with that world and care about it and foster it, because at the end of the day, like, when you create something like this, you're creating something to share with others. If they don't have a connection to it, they're not going to fucking care. We could sit here and academically talk about this book for fucking hours and it wouldn't mean a thing. It's the emotional connection of this book that is what is truly powerful about it, at least for me.
And that's the second to last thing that I wanted to talk about. And unfortunately, I'm going to spoil it for you guys who didn't read Volume 7.
So go ahead.
But the scene where Tito dies fucked me up.
Really?
Yeah. I think I cried the most from that scene since we read I Kill Giants.
Really?
That was the last time that I got that fucked up by something that I read.
Wow.
It just wrecked me.
I was more
This time
sad.
or the first time?
This time.
I was more sad about her, the bird, her mount.
Oh, yeah.
When Kai, shit,
Because
man.
that beat me up.
See, that
was-
didn't quite get to me because, like, he killed himself for her.
Right.
But it's the
Like,
hope.
he sacrificed himself. Like, that was a noble death.
I
Right.
totally understand because that is just I think any lingering doubts I had at that point where he fucking like kicks out and then picks her up and runs and he gets there and he just fucking collapses and dies.
Yeah.
That's just
people and creatures sacrificing themselves for her is another running theme through the story.
Yeah.
But it can also be incredibly manipulative.
Yeah.
It can also be incredibly fucking manipulative. And as everybody here knows, I hate that shit.
But
there is nothing that will turn me against the work faster.
But that scene was so brutal because she feels like she's in a needless combat at that
Oh,
point. So it's
absolutely.
like not only did her partner willingly kill himself to save her, but she didn't want to be there in the first place.
and all these strangers too.
Yeah.
She's like, they're
She's
saying,
like, I can outrun them.
Oh,
And
yeah,
everybody
with
is
the
like, no, we'll
guards.
protect you. It's like, no, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, and they're getting shot, and the guards with the heavy armor, they're like, get behind our armor, and they're just dying in front of her.
I mean, that whole scene I think is incredible. Is one of the most powerful. In
That's
the
what I
book
mean about,
because-
like, it as an epic war comic.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
those are the scenes. And I can get with you on the, like, loss of her pet, her partner, her child mentality of losing that animal. But it dies in its sleep, like, almost peacefully.
Yeah, except like it's suffered so long, like it's been through so much.
Right, because it was with her the whole time. I
So-
mean, like, but it's
Right.
been through what she's been through.
Like,
So-
I don't know, it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
yeah.
When I first read Nausicaä when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
I remember very clearly in the manga when in the very first part of the manga, when she gets him and she's like, you're fine. And then he bites her and then she's totally calm. And that stuck with me forever.
Yeah.
I got guinea pigs and I did that. Didn't work. They didn't love
Guinea
me.
pigs are food animals.
But-
Anybody attempting to use them as a pet is doing it wrong.
But so that stuck with me. And I remember, now that you say that, I remember when I, like, later teens, I saw the last volume and I opened it up just for nostalgic value. And I saw that scene where he dies and it actually made me emotional because not only because it's nostalgic for me, that scene in the first volume, but because that means that he stuck with her throughout all 7.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't read all 7 at that time, it was like, wow, like this is like my guinea pig dying, even though my guinea pig doesn't love me that much. Like, it's like I still had a lingering connection with that scene.
Well, they went through the shit together.
Yeah,
you know?
they
Like,
they did everything
Yeah.
together.
And like I've had a lot of cats
Yeah.
over the years, and I've had cats die on
you
me,
have
and
100 cats right now.
Yes, I do.
It's excessive.
You go to his
Minus
house and
99.
you can't see the floor. It's just a.
It's just a sea of cats. It's
Just a,
like
yeah,
the
like,
endless
I don't
sea.
even like put down bowls of food. I just scatter the food like you would for
Like a
chickens, and it's just
farmer,
like
yeah.
a roiling sea of cats.
What do they
everywhere.
call the forest? The
Sea of corruption.
The sea of corruption. That's what I
Yeah.
call your cats.
The sea of cat ass. Cat.
Anyway, you were making a point. I'm sorry, Joby.
Oh no, it just that really
the loss
hit
of
me.
a pet is something a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah,
Well, and I think-
it fucked me up.
Yeah.
Like I had to stop reading and have myself a little bit of a cry.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's the sign of good writing. Like that
Yeah.
you care, that doesn't feel false. It doesn't feel like manipulation. Like it really does hit you.
Yeah.
and it feels like it matters.
Yeah.
Can I say that Master Yupa is about 1,000 times more badass than Obi-Wan Kenobi? Can I just
Oh, yeah.
fucking say
That,
real quick? The way that fucking he's
spoil.
just like, you got, I'm cornered. No, I'm not cornered. Ha!
My favorite is the Yupa, the side scroller jump attack move that he always does.
Yes, no, he's
it's
just
like anytime that it's like, oh, you can't beat me, I'm a master swordsman. Oh wait, Yupa's doing his jump attack. This is where he wins.
Well, I love how everybody's heard of him and everyone is scared of him.
Yeah, I
it's
love
like,
it.
oh, Master Yupa, he's the best swordsman.
Yeah.
The best. No one can beat him.
Love the scene where he's in the breeding chamber with the ohms
Yes.
when he finds out they're breeding ohms, and there's like they're about to fight him, and then they're like, kill him, and then the other guy's like, wait, that's Master Yupa though. Like, it's gonna take a couple more of us, and so they like swarm him together, and he still
Just
like
like-
kills them all.
They're having that bidding war. Like,
Yeah.
how much is it going to cost for us to
Oh,
fight
yeah.
this guy? And
Yeah.
he's just standing there.
Yeah, and then I
But
love the twist there where it's like then this samurai comes up, this like fully armored, very badass looking dude, and you're like, oh, it's on. Like, this is gonna be the most epic fight scene you've ever fucking seen. 2 seconds, it's over.
Yep.
He's just like, I'm here to help you, and then breaks open like he swings so that Yupa can do his jump attack, and then
Jump
like
attack
breaks
over.
oh, it's so cool. But Joe, Volume 7 though. If you love Yupa, man, it's sad. I'm just
Well,
saying.
no, I mean,
just
there are
saying.
certain things. There are certain things I've come to expect.
I'm just saying.
It's-
It was
I'm
there was that. You want to talk about badassatry? That
he
stuff
goes out
was-
like a badass.
He
Oh,
does.
I'm sure.
Like-
I'm sure.
Like
You don't even know.
Batman
I
looks
won't-
at Master Yupa and he's like, that dude went out like a badass.
Yeah.
Even Batman's like,
Okay, I can respect that. Yeah, I won't spoil how he goes out, but man, it was like.
I mean, I figured
shit.
there's you get the sense that he is.
It's not even. It's like the injury he sustains before he gets taken out. It's
Yeah.
just like, what the fuck are you doing, Master? How did? Well, all right, here we go,
Jump attack!
and then jump attack.
I had another arm with me.
It's pretty fucking good. And although like I can get with Toby on the death of a pet thing, but it was always more of a mother-child relationship for me in that. And so there's like several moments in which she loses her child in the story. And
it's
especially at the end with the God Warrior.
Yeah.
And that hit me almost harder because it was just like this machine made only for killing was like,
Am I a good person?
yeah,
Mama?
did I do good stuff? And I was like, tear. Like, I hate
Wait
it
a
when-
minute. Do you mean that it's a machine organism designed only for killing?
Yeah, it is a giant Modoc that is like, did I do good? Well, it's like melting and burning away, and you're like, fuck you, go away. I hate you. Like, that part got me. That I hate when AI goes out and was like, was
Did it
I
give a
real?
thumbs up as
And
he-
yeah, and he went into the lava with the thumbs up, and then it was just that was there's a lot of
manly
emotion
tear.
in this book, though. Many manly
Are you
tears.
getting emotional right now?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, you can see it.
I
There's
can
plenty
see
of
it.
times with this when I was like, I read it on my iPad, but there were times when I was like, reading, I'm like, you
Turning the
start
pages,
reading
yeah.
faster because you're
Oh, me
just
too.
like, I gotta know it. Like, I'm really invested in these characters. So,
I read it all today, and I read it. I just devoured it.
yeah.
Like I could
It's
not
one of those
stop.
things where once you start, you can't.
I knew
stop.
I would do that too, because like I flipped through a little at the beginning, and I was like, I gotta wait on this one. I'm gonna just eat it all like 2 weeks before we record, and I won't remember anything.
That's what I did.
yeah.
I finished it over like Halloween.
Yeah,
Last point that I really
Yes.
wanted to hit: how much I love the ending.
yeah,
Because it ends on this indefinite note where like you get to the end and then it's just a narration like some people say that this happened,
yeah.
other people say that this happened, nobody really knows.
I like the legend of Nausicaä kind of.
Yeah.
Like where did she go?
Yeah, like what happened to her afterwards. It doesn't really matter. Like
Right.
this is the important part of her story.
And the course in which she set the world on isn't really changed by any of those interpretations, but like the end of that global conflict, that was difficult to say. The end of that she brought about set the world on a specific path. And so regardless of where she ends up, like her story's kind of over
Yeah,
there.
like she made the choice that she had to make.
And I can get behind that because it's like, her story isn't over, but that story's over.
Right. But well, like we've talked before about this idea of like indefinite endings and like And then other things happened, and you don't know, like, did it end this way or did
Right.
it end that way? Make up your own story. And that's bullshit. This has a discrete ending. Like, this thing happens. This
Right.
is the end of this story. The character is still alive. She went on to do other things,
Right.
but they don't matter to this story because events have concluded
Right.
in a certain specific way.
This conflict
and that's
is
something that I'm really okay with.
Yeah. It worked. I liked it. I was concerned because I was like, how is this going to end? And the scene where she's with the guy in the elk place, like in the spirit world or wherever, the garden.
I don't think it's the spirit world. It's just hidden, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of
it's
crossover mental landscape stuff there.
Yeah.
But it is a real place. It's just.
Is it though?
Oh yeah, yes, it is. It's just
like the Emperor
concealed.
took the Hydra from out of there.
Yeah, I mean, like she comes out of there.
Yeah, it's
but,
it's like a secret place. Like
there's a lot of like
disconnected from the
he
world.
transforms into her mom, and she's a little girl in that
like,
place.
That's
He's pulling
mental
all kinds of
illusion.
like psychic bullcrap on
I don't
her.
know. I don't know how real it. I mean, like I think the realness of what she's saying is up to into debate. But when it shows her mom and her, and I was like, oh, are they gonna pull the whole like her mom was from this magic land and that's why she has all these powers? I was like, that would kind of spoil it for me, and I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Yeah,
And it was just
totally.
like, nope, it's all an illusion. It's contact.
Were we just talking about Contact?
Were we talking about Jodie Foster? Like I'm always talking about Jodie
Were we
Foster.
ever not talking about
Okay,
Contact?
I talked about Contact with somebody the other day, and I cannot remember
It was
where
not
it was.
me.
And now it's going to fucking bother me.
to go.
I think it was at my house.
That was my Jodie Foster impression.
It was. That's good.
Were we talking about Matthew McConaughey?
I was talking about the last sci-fi, because somebody asked me if I was going to see Interstellar, and I said the last Matthew McConaughey movie I saw about space was Contact, and that didn't end well. Because I was like, 3 hours for this? Really?
Yeah, really.
Fuck you.
That's what I said about Titanic. I was like, I knew the boat was gonna sink.
Yeah, I know.
Shut up.
I called it. Totally called it.
Oh, I worked
Dude,
for Blockbuster.
spoilers.
I'm
gonna bleep it out.
I
For
worked
something
for
that happened
Blockbuster-
100 years ago.
I worked for Blockbuster Video when Titanic came out on video, and we had a midnight release, right, for the people that had pre-ordered their copies. So we had the stores fucking full, right? Everybody's going to get their copy of Titanic. I go into like the middle bay where there's like 3 sets of registers. And I go into the middle one, and I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, I need your attention. And they look at me, and I'm like, unfortunately, the release of Titanic has been delayed because the ship that was carrying our copies hit an iceberg and sank. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
They were not amused.
They were not amused. I don't give a fuck though, because fuck them. I'm saying it for me, and I found it hilarious.
The one and only time I watched that movie was in Olympia like 3 years ago, and I rented it from a Blockbuster that doesn't exist anymore.
I was going to say Blockbuster is still open.
No, it was that one over by Safeway. but it's gone
It's the
now.
only
Even.
one.
Yeah.
God, I should probably take the Blockbuster card out of my wallet.
No, don't ever, never forget.
Yeah, I think now's the time for that.
Maybe Hollywood Video too.
Yeah. Oh god.
I don't know. I figure they're going to reopen it eventually,
Oh, totally.
and that card will still be good.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like
I opened a Blockbuster card just to rent Titanic.
I have never seen
You
it.
poor bastard.
It wasn't that bad. I didn't see what all the hubbub was about, but
Well,
it's
I
a
mean,
boat.
you.
It's a big boat. It's whatever.
Kate Winslet. I'll say that.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. I'll
Yeah.
I'll raise you.
I'll raise you. I'll see your Leonardo DiCaprio and raise you a Billy Zane.
Oh,
Okay then.
Now, what's up now?
who's
So,
the
yeah.
one from Lady from Misery that's in that?
Kathy Bates.
She plays the unsinkable Molly Brown.
Yeah. Anyway, so as tradition on the long run.
Oh, before we move on to our
did you
next
have
pick,
another?
one last thing.
Yes,
Oh, God, this
Miyazaki
is
has retired from making movies
for the third time.
for a bunch of times. He's working on a new manga
Ooh,
that is historical samurai fiction.
sweet.
I don't know how I
Interesting.
feel about this.
So when that eventually comes out in 2018, you should go check that out
Yeah,
because I'm sure it'll be good.
cool. Yeah, check it out.
That's it.
And it'll take 20 years to come out.
Yeah, right.
This only took 6 years to come out.
I don't know how long it took. I mean,
It ended in 94.
Then like 10 years,
Okay.
11
I
years.
thought it started in 80. Yeah, oh yeah, it was like 82.
It was
wasn't
83. 83 is the copyright date
Okay.
on the first volume.
Okay.
So,
So
in
yes,
the great tradition of the long run, the annual tradition of the long run.
what did I pick for my first long run? Does anybody
I don't
remember? You
know.
picked Transmet,
I did pick Transmet.
and I picked
fuck if I know.
Ultimate Spider-Man.
You picked Empowered.
I did pick
Yeah.
Empowered, yeah. And then my second pick was
Ultimate
Invincible.
Spider-Man.
No, that was Cade, and I have never forgiven him for that.
But before you tell us what we're reading next,
You
we
need
should...
to talk about what you should read if you like.
Yeah.
Nausicaa. I want to
was
say
getting to
something
that.
real quick.
Oh,
Okay.
wow. I completely forgot about this.
I want to say something real quick before we do that.
All right.
I am almost positive that when I was reading this, it says in the beginning that her name, it says how you should pronounce her name.
Yeah.
And I don't think
I looked it up on Wikipedia, like the original Nausicaa, who's from the Odyssey.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's Nausicaa.
Yeah, in the book, it's spelled Naw-See. The phonetic spelling is Naw-See something.
Is it N-A-W or
I think so. Or Nau. I don't remember. But in the Japanese
this is not
movie, they
They say Nausciaä.
Nausciaä.
And I feel like that's a lot easier to say, so
Yeah.
I like saying Nausciaä
Yeah.
because it's like one syllable less.
Yeah. Nausicaa.
So right here it says Nausicaä.
Right.
So
Nausicaa.
Nausicaa.
Right. That
Which is
feels
how I've been
too
saying it.
American to me.
I love
Very.
these, the paperbacks that I have, because in the back it has a guide to what all the sound effects are.
Oh, that's
that.
cool.
It's just like, you know, boom, whoosh, ween, blam, click, crash.
I love it when they do that, and it's just like this sound is just like.
Yeah.
Viz Media was
Zoro,
like
Zoro.
top tier of
Well, and Japanese has a lot of
publishing.
like onomatopoeia in it too, where you
In the
have
language
sounds
itself.
that,
Yeah.
that
Wordplay is huge because of the
Yeah.
way their language works, and that's one of the biggest things, troubles with translations.
There's this one that's goo, 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 parentheses, goo, 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 goo.
I'm pretty sure that's when the mold is moving.
Yeah.
Probably.
And it's just it's goo goo goo. It's just making a goo sound.
Right. At
Yeah,
least
because
if
I
you
love all
like
the sound
this.
effects that go over the ships
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. Like I wonder what those are all. Like,
Well, if you look in the back of the book, it'll tell you.
So if you like this,
Lawnmower sounds.
what should we pick up?
Yeah.
'Cause I don't have to do this. I already know what we're picking.
Right. So I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always recommend a book that if you enjoyed Nausicaa, what should you read next? And normally on the long run, I have the hardest fucking time picking a book, and I'm like, well, I have no idea. Or I pick something really obvious. But for this one, I had like 100 ideas. So actually narrowing it down was the most difficult part. So I'm going to choose two aspects of it. One if you like the story content, and one if you like kind of the artistic styling of it. The first one, the story content, and just like the post-apocalyptic world that is set several hundred years in the future, and society has like rebuilt and relearned, and there's still technology, there's planes and cars and stuff like that, is an obvious pick of Xenozoic Tales, which I just read and covered on Out of the Fridge. Now, if
Is
you
that
don't,
the one that they adapted to be Cadillacs and dinosaurs
Absolutely.
on Saturday morning when I was a kid? That
This
was the
is
coolest
Mark
show.
Schultz. He did this book called Xenozoic Tales, which is set like 600 years in the future after society like moved underground and then reemerged to like a Jurassic style environment. So there's dinosaurs. It's much warmer. The oceans have risen after this big ecological disaster, like global warming happened. And New York's like half underwater, and so they live in the tops of skyscrapers where they're like rope bridges between all the buildings. And
It's very pulp.
yeah, it's super pulpy. It's very like Doc Savage, and Jack Tenorak is the main character, who is an old blood mechanic who fixes up Cadillacs and drives them around the countryside and wrecks a Cadillac in every issue. And Hannah is this. She's drawn very much like a kind of like a pulp pinup model, but she is a expert hunter gatherer trapper from a warrior hunter society called the Wassoons, who's come to Jack's people to get into an underground library to learn the secrets of like old science. And so there's a lot of like political interplay and stuff. And the unfortunate thing is Mark Schultz is kind of a perfection. Is Mark Schultz? Is that who?
Oh,
I can't remember the name. I think that's right. Maybe I'm wrong. But whoever's drawing, I think it's Prince Valiant right now in comic strips, is the artist of this. But they're kind of perfectionists, so they...
Incredibly slow.
It's taken like 20 years for 14 issues to come out. Like he started it in the 80s, and there hasn't been an issue since 96.
Good deal.
So they just kickstarted a full volume of the trade paperback, which is easy to find now. It doesn't have the backup stories in it, which I also highly recommend. So if you can find the scans of the backups, like, I recommend that. But it's cool. It's set in this kind of a similar environment, and Jack Tenorak is kind of imploring his people not to farm and not to burn down the forest and not to overhunt dinosaurs and not to drain the swamps and build more, but to live in kind of harmony with nature and
Noble savagery.
Yeah, these trappers and hunters and all these people.
It's a bit silly, but it's pulp, so you roll with it.
It's pretty good, and I really dug it. I like surprisingly dug it, and the art is phenomenal. Like, it is such cool shit. It reminds me of like 2000 AD Judge Dredd type stuff because it's all black and white as well. Really heavy blacks and just like cool stuff. But as far as art goes, I have to go with one of my favorite Western artists who I think was very heavily influenced by Japanese stuff, and that is James Stokoe, or Stoke.
We can't still.
I can't say his name right. I don't know. I think it's Stokoe. I think finally the fans have told me to say it like that, so I'm gonna go with it. And that is Wonton Soup, which is a book in which it's kind of like set in deep space, and it's like, what if chefs were trained like samurai? So they had like a master, and they like wandered the country, like trained almost like samurai Ronin. And they like wandered the countryside and then dueled other chefs, but they like wander the galaxy and duel chefs with exotic ingredients in arenas and stuff, and it's pretty fucking bizarre and cool, and the art is hyper detailed and just like super abstract and really, really, really cool.
It's pretty cool.
Check either of those out. They both have new big fat cool publications of those, so they're both in print, so that was another reason why I went with those.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so Toby.
So I completely forgot about this aspect of the long run, but I still have two things that I can recommend.
Sweet.
So the first is a book that I pitched on the show once before, and this is more about the like future post-apocalyptic elements of Nausicaä, and that's Finder by Carla Speed McNeil. And this is a series basically where there is an unspecified apocalypse that happened a long, long time ago, and humanity retreated into domed cities, and then like the environment recovered, and they came out of the cities again, except it's a perfectly good city. So lots of people still live there, and they have like really advanced technology that they preserved. But then like the outside world has drastically changed, and there's all kinds of like crazy stuff, and it's really kind of weird and interesting. And like Nausicaä, like you can tell like this is a whole world that she's thought up, and it's incredibly detailed and really cool. The other thing that I'm going to pitch on the like, this is a war epic, Bone by Jeff Smith. Incredibly good comic. Possibly my next long run pick in like another year. But basically imagine if Donald Duck and a couple of his friends somehow ended up in a magic valley from Lord of the Rings with like dragons and wizards and shit.
Rat creatures.
And there's this like huge epic story of all powerful spirits that are going to destroy the world and craziness and a war, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's like Donald Duck meets The Hobbit.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet.
It's super awesome.
And another kind of like life's masterwork, because it took Jeff Smith
10 years.
10 years to put that out. So,
I'm also a little unprepared. But going on similar themes, something I've only read part of is, you were saying Tezuka, that's Astro Boy?
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend his Phoenix series.
Oh, yeah.
Which is another, masterwork by a major, even more influential on the Japanese and manga culture than Miyazaki. I understand that some of it is getting American releases for the first time recently.
Yeah.
And it is another grand, dealing with humanity and what are people, how can people lead good lives, and going through a number of different settings and scenarios.
Yeah.
And interesting read.
Yeah, I think it's getting new printings right now because I think someone negotiated for a lot of Tezuka's stuff, because I noticed like Blackjack's coming back into print and Buddha and some other stuff. So Phoenix is definitely seeing some new releases right now. So very cool.
Awesome.
So I have two. First of all, of course, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. It's like a little more, not so far in the future, but it's still the future. I'm talking about the manga, but like both, if you watch the anime or the manga, it's a good comparison to Nausicaä to me. And the manga is drawn by one of my favorite artists, Masamune Shiro.
Talk about somebody who's gone into doing purely porn.
Yeah, of course.
Plenty more anime tits than that.
Yeah.
No. I mean, since he stopped doing comics, he's just started doing porn releases.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites, but
Because of the porn.
the Ghost in the Shell manga that he made is so detailed and beautiful, and the first few pages are like colored so beautifully, and like I can't even describe it. You'd have to read it. And my second one, since you brought it up, is Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's just like Satoshi Kon and Miyazaki to me go like hand in hand,
Well, they're
especially
the
his
two,
dramas.
Like, big names that came over to Western.
But they're also
in the
like
films.
friends, aren't they?
Well, Satoshi
were.
Kon's dead.
Right.
Yeah.
Were
They
is
knew
a
each
better
other
word.
at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
Perfect
say they
Blue.
were
That is the
Acquaintances, at
one
least.
with the
with the
actress.
actress.
the actress. Yeah.
Who's having the...
She was a pop idol and she retires
Yeah.
and she's being stalked by an anonymous stalker.
Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal
It's amazing.
movie.
Awesome.
I love Satoshi Kon.
So, Joe,
Before you recommend what we're reading next, I'm surprised that no one said Prophet. So I'm going to say it.
yeah,
Because if you like the art style,
Oh, I
and
was going to say,
sci-fi-
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Oh, okay.
Profit.
Sure. Yeah, sure you were.
No, but it
Oh,
is
no.
because-
It's,
don't do that to me. I'll fucking hit you with something.
you don't do what?
That thing you're doing.
I'm not doing anything.
I was sitting here going, I can't believe nobody mentioned Profit.
Yeah.
So I was going to give it a quick shout out.
Yeah, oh, definitely. We've talked about it on the
yeah,
show before.
Yeah, because
but-
it's fucking great, and it has that same feeling of like alien, far-flung
Ages have
future.
passed.
Yeah, like
societies
this
have
is
gone
yeah.
and come and gone.
This
and
is nothing familiar going on. This is a whole
in
new
the
landscape
exploration of a universe through a singular character.
Absolutely,
That is kind
absolutely.
of pretty sweet.
that has the added coolness factor of once being one of the worst comics being published.
yeah.
one of
One of
the
the.
Not as
No,
bad
there
as
were worse. There
Youngblood.
were worse.
Not as
I
bad
would
as...
still rather read literally anything that Rob Liefeld was putting out in the 90s than ever have to read Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose again. Because I have
You
read
did that to yourself.
I did. And you know what? I bled
you
for
read
this
it.
fucking shit.
Have you ever read Prophet?
Oh,
the
no, when
original
it was
Prophet?
coming out, yeah. That's when I was
read
reading comics.
like 2 issues, and I couldn't fucking do it anymore.
I read Youngblood.
What was
Did
the...
you read Youngblood Bloodsport, though?
Wait, yeah, we did.
Well, we talked
Yeah,
about
we-
it.
we talked about it.
What's the Silvestri team book?
That was
Cyberforce?
Cyberforce.
Yeah, that would kill
That
you.
was X-Men. Oh, I read that too.
That would... You
It
die
was awful.
if you read it.
When I was
just want you to
15,
say.
when I was 15
No, if
and
you read it
obsessed
now,
with
though.
boobs, I knew it was bad.
Well,
I was like,
want-
this is just X-Men. And
want-
then I read Youngblood, and I was like, this is just X-Men.
And then you read
I read
X-Men.
Fucking Grant
And then
Morrison
Gen
is writing
13.
this whole multiversity thing about a haunted comic book. The haunted comic book is real, and it's
Yeah.
called Cyberforce, and you read it, and then 7 days later, you die.
I want to see
No,
you
you
try to
die,
read
right?
Cyberforce without getting a brain aneurysm right now.
Me?
I'm going to film it.
No, God,
It's
no.
going on the YouTube.
Dude, you know what we just...
Snuff
I can't
films.
talk
That's
about
what
what
we're
we
doing
just
next.
read. We just did a very special back matter where we read something
We
from
can talk
that
about it.
time.
I'm so excited.
Well, but I don't want to mention it because I don't know when it's going to drop. So I
It's,
don't
it's
want
going to
month.
drop in like a month.
It'll be out
it'll
in like a
drop.
month.
So
We're like way ahead
We
on
talked
Back
about
Matters.
we read the first year of Spawn, so that's going to come out,
And
and
your
my
brother's
brother is
on
on it,
It was so much fun.
and it's a lot of fun. But holy shit!
And it was my
90s.
first time ever reading
the
Spawn.
90s.
And it was
It's like in
sweet.
the end of Chinatown where Jake Getty's partner comes up to him and goes, "It's just Chinatown, Jake." It's like it's just the 90s, Joe.
Yeah.
You just have to write it off.
Spoilers. I loved it.
Spawn.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's of its
Well, they
time.
imported Thor's sister into it for some weird
Yeah.
reason.
Right? There's Marvel characters in it. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it
Yeah,
makes
it's
no
really
sense.
odd. So, I went back and forth on what to pick for my long run. And I
Tara, Witch of the Black Rose.
it's Tarot, Witch of the Black Rose.
Spawn.
Goodbye, fucking world. You guys have to read it. I'm gonna jump out the fucking window. No,
That window, for the 25th time, Joe, that window doesn't go anywhere. You can't jump out of it.
I will find a window to jump out of.
All right.
He will
But
Not the one you
He will
pointed
go
at.
through the wall, Kool-Aid Man.
I will. Oh yeah! Smack, splat.
I believe it. We're never getting our deposit.
I
back.
went back and
Literally
forth on
every
this a lot.
wall in this room leads into another room.
Except that.
Nope.
Yes.
Oh, I guess that one does too. Okay,
Yeah.
well, who fucking cares?
There's
Anyways.
another building on the other side of this
Yeah.
wall.
Anyways. We done?
Yeah.
We all done?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yes.
I went coming from Adam. That was fucking hilarious. I went back and forth about this a lot because there were a lot of books I wanted to talk about, and I feel like because it's so long in between picks, I really have to make a count.
Yeah.
And it came down to two. One, I know how I feel about. It's one of my favorite things to read. It's probably the single comic book
Oh
that
God.
influenced the way I read comic books as an adult. And the other I read as I was getting back into comic books. And the reason I'm going to pick that one is because
hate me.
I don't know how I feel about it. And I would rather pick a book that I don't know how I feel about and talk it out with you guys than talk about a book I know I love. So I'm going to pick, also because you made me read all those fucking goddamn Chuck Austin comic books.
Yeah.
I am picking Preacher by Garth
But I
Ennis
that
and
was what I
Derek
was signing to you. I was like the cowboy hat and
and,
guns and Jesus.
and Steve Dillon.
I thought the Preacher was the one that he wasn't picking.
Why did
No.
you make them read Chuck Austin Chard?
I don't know.
Why?
I'm going to pick
'Cause I-
Preacher by
'cause
Garth
I like
Ennis and
Tim
Steve
Drake.
Dillon.
No, I'm just going to jump out the window.
And you're all going to have to fucking... Hey, if we live through fucking Ultimate Spider-Man, Preacher's a
parts
lot
of that I
shorter,
like.
all right? There'll be parts of Preacher you like. They're good. It's not...
It's
not,
very, very Garth Ennis.
It
It's
is.
distilled Garth
This is a book
Ennis.
I've tried to read 3 times and never made it through the first trade. I
Well,
want you to know that.
No.
And you knew that going into
I
this
did.
because
I
I've
did.
told you that.
But I'm honestly not... I'm no fucking
No, it's-
around. Like,
it's worth talking about.
I'm seriously... This was a book that catapulted Garth Ennis into fucking superstardom, all right?
Well,
this
and-
was a book that people were talking about. This is a book that
It
people
was.
that were not reading comic books were talking
Well,
about when
and
it came out.
I mean, when I was getting back into comics too, which was, I don't know, mid 2000s, no one would, everyone was talking about this. No
Yeah,
one would
no,
shut up
Preacher
about
was
this book.
fucking
I remember
huge.
those
And I was
days.
like, oh my
and
God,
I read
this
it because
book-
of that, and it made me swear off Garth Ennis for life.
Well,
Because Garth Ennis, I mean, you will talk about this on your long run, but Garth Ennis does a particular thing, and I gave it a shot. I read the whole Preacher run, and it's not my thing, and I'm never going back.
And part of me is very definitely in that camp, but there's also a part of me that can't write it off completely. And I want to read it again
Yeah.
because I've had it on my shelf.
It walks a fine line between being brutally honest and brutally shocking for simple shock value.
Well, and I think it also it
And I'm not sure it always
embraces
toes
this
the line.
fantastical idea of what it means to be American. And that's kind of one of the things that fascinates me about it. There's plenty of things that fascinate me about it, aside from the more Garth Ennis aspects of it. I think there's something there. I really do. This was a cultural phenomenon.
It
Just
was.
so you know, I've switched my next long run pick from Bone to Why the Last Man.
That's fine. I can read most of. I just won't read the end, and then I'll spend the whole episode screaming.
It's the one comic I don't get, Preacher. I don't get it.
Well,
I understand why people like it.
I don't
mean, that's
necessarily
the one I
know-
can't understand why people like it.
And I don't necessarily know that I get it either, which is why I chose it.
It
My
seems-
other pick was going to be the Sandman, but I know what I love about that.
It seems like
And-
boring Constantine to me. Actually, both of those
I
seem
guess,
like
mean-
boring
I guess we're going to read it and we're going to
Yeah,
find
we're
out.
gonna- we're
if
gonna
there's
take that
anything-
trip together.
Any redeeming
Yeah.
value to it.
We're gonna
We'll see
take
if I'm
that
ready
trip
to take that
together
trip.
and see what happens. I'm really interested in it.
All right.
I wish I knew what you guys were talking about. but-
You're better off
You're
not
better
knowing.
off not knowing. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. All right. Well,
Just bumping the mic, man. I have to cut that out.
yeah, but I wasn't talking when I hit it.
Sort of.
It was like a second in between.
Are you
Right.
still recording? Make sure
Yeah.
that everyone watches our new show
Yeah.
that's coming out.
Check out our YouTube stuff. It's coming
Yeah.
up. Yeah, we're going to.
Animu.
Yeah.
In the new year.
In the new year. Yeah, look forward
Mango.
to all the new shit that I'm doing in January. So,
Yeah. And
Top of
we've
Stack
got-
coming back. Get hyped.
We've
Thank
got
you for
more
having
back
me
matter
back.
coming at you.
Yeah.
So
Totes.
Yeah,
things
and
are going good.
Lots of hentai.
I'm
Can I
already
be on a
hating it.
hentai? I'm fascinated by tentacles.
I don't.
I want to understand. Can we do a Futanari episode? Because I'm fascinated by that shit. I have no idea why it's a thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with
I
you.
am no-
Like,
and I-
it's this weirdly gross fascination. Like, I don't get it, but I want to understand why it's a thing.
Yes,
because it just seems so fucking weird.
I definitely. I'm just. It's like the mind cannot.
It's like that Call of Cthulhu shit where it's like it drives you insane, but as you go insane, you start to understand
That's
it,
exactly
and so you
what
can't stop trying to understand it.
Japanese drawn chicks with dicks is my Cthulhu. That's really what that amounts to.
I'm right there with
It's
you.
the only
Can we get a
thing-
pin that says? Can I get a shirt that says that or something? Can I? Because
It's the only thing I want to read. To
Right
be
on,
honest
that's
with you.
fair. That's
Are you-
fair.
Well, it's the only thing that we're gonna
Kidding
read.
me?
No, it's the only thing we're reading for our show.
Welcome to the
No.
Futicast.
No.
If we're playing H games, we're reading nothing but
I
that.
hate that.
I hate you. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. You guys have been great.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for being so quiet.
thanks for
letting
being
us
so
talk.
quiet and letting us talk. You guys have been an amazing audience. We love you, New York.
We do.
Or
Thank
wherever
you.
you're
Hi, Mom.
from. Sweden.
It's so good to be here at Saturday Night Live.
Hi, Jasmine's mom.
Yeah, Jasmine's mom, if you sat through all of this, God bless you.
Yeah, we love you too.
She just skips to the parts where her daughter's talking.
Yeah, fair. I'll give her that version. Just edit it down to
It's just-
you saying bullshit about
I
H
didn't
games.
understand what was going on, but I mean, I'm glad you were on it.
Good job, honey.
Put this on your resume.
Oh, please no.
Anyway, we will catch you guys next time
Yeah.
on a regular episode or a back matter.
Yep, we love you.
And see you around.
Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to our show, everybody. Special thanks to theouthousers.com for posting our episodes. You can always keep up to date with everything we're doing by checking out our website at viewfromthegutters.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. And please be sure to leave us an iTunes review, as it really does help new listeners find the show. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.